Yo, JD here, Tyrannus, and as you can see, back on F1 2020 as always, and we are back with some league racing in the TSRL Championship. 5 races to go now. Getting to the crunch time, I'm leading this championship by 44 points from LCR Leopard, and it's going to get, well, it is, already very, very tense. And I'm the defending champion from last season. There hasn't been a TSRL champion that has won a season back-to-back before, and the competition just keeps on getting higher and higher all the time. So you can see Tyrrell Martin has actually made a return. But coming into this race, as I always say in these videos, I learned a lot from the WOR race that I did on the Monday before this. I learned that track position is absolutely crucial if you're running a high downforce setup, and also that the ERS management is next to impossible. So coming into this race, I worked very, very hard to make a low downforce setup work, and I knew in qualifying that this was a little bit of a risk, but I knew in the race that it would enable me to overtake if I didn't have that track position. And it was just so fast in the race, and I was able to save the ERS, which is crucial around here, because if you can stretch someone where they use all of their ERS and they waste it all and then they can't gather it back, then you've effectively won this race. So that's a lot of things that people didn't think of coming into this, but I was very, very wise to it, and as I said, was prepared to take a little bit of a hit in quali in order to get the points in the race. So you can see we went through Q1, Q2 pretty well, and I was driving very, very well. I think the last few races I've done in this league, I've been a little bit too cautious. I haven't really been as attacking as I could be, but I know what I thought to myself, with 5 races to go, I want to put one hand on that trophy. I want to take a few wins, which has been a very, very long time in this league, since Vietnam in fact. I really want to go out with a bang and really stamp my authority on this championship. So I felt very, very confident, and the nerves I had from the previous races were kind of let go here. I wasn't afraid to make a mistake or be very aggressive, because I still had a good lead in the championship, and I just knew if I could make it work and pull it off, then it just makes my life so much easier for the remaining races. So been driving very, very well in the Q1, Q2. This is my Q3 and the one and only final lap that I am going to do here now. And you can see we set a banker of a 0.5, so not too bad. But that is P6. Leopard is in P5 at the moment. As I said, track position really is crucial around here. So going through this middle sector split, it's a 9.2, which I was surprised there was no purple delta there, because that's a very, very quick middle sectors. Going for his final chicane, keeping it in 4th, then 3rd for the left hand side part, and going to the line. I feel like this is going to be pole position as you cross the line now. Fuck yes! You can tell I'm very, very happy. I thought that could be enough, but I just had a feeling
it gets beaten though.
As I said there, that it's going to get beaten. And what happened at the end of that, as we look at the final results, it's P3 with Leopard beating me by less than a tenth of a second. It's the top 4 within a tenth of a second. It's just absolutely mental. But we are in a good position, P3 on the grid, and I knew the setup I had that it was going to be very, very strong, because I know most people would run 3.7
really bad
or 3.8 wings. I was running a lower downforce, which was a risk. But I thought it was a risk that was worth taking in order to get the maximum benefit. So now we've got 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights here. It's crucial that we get a good start. And as the lights go out now for the final 5 rounds in this championship, we get a very, very good start. Ron here on pole position, and we decide to try and go around the outside of my championship rival LCR Leopard, and he then quickly closes the door. So as I said before, you can already see that we are much more aggressive, and I knew if I just put the pressure on him instead of me soaking it up and being cautious and conservative, I really have to take the fight to him and just finish this championship. I don't want it to go down to the last race. I want to win this championship in style. That's what I want to do. As a safety car has now come out, and now this raises big questions. What do you do? And you can see by my MFD there that I quickly changed it to hard tyres. I felt like my gut feeling was telling me that that is the thing that I really probably should be doing, because mediums can go from lap 7 to the end. Surely hard tyres can make it to the end, but my gut was telling me, but another part was telling me that it could be a mistake. So as we come into the final chicane, I decided whatever my rival Leopard is going to do, as Ron here continues, I decided to follow Leopard in, and that was probably the decision. Smashers actually overtaking me going into the pits. That could be huge in this race. In fact, putting in position a car between myself and my championship rival. So he just, as I said, a lot of people who are not in this championship, they are prepared to take these risks. As Leopard comes out, and then the Mercedes gets ahead of me, which I don't know what to say about that. But no, I quickly got my focus back.
It's too late. I can't hear Jarno.
And I think Jarno in the chat when he was watching the stream told me that he doesn't think this is a good decision. So when the esports champion is telling you it's not a good thing to do, it doesn't really give you that much confidence. But deep down, I felt like it was probably going to be the right choice rather than the wrong choice. And yeah, I'm glad I just copied Leopard, my rival here, and you can see obviously on the safety car restart, leaving a gap, making sure I have no threat from behind, because there are people who have stayed out, so I wasn't really too concerned about staying super close. But now, this is crucial. Can the hard tyres make it to the end of the race? And I think one of my strengths in driving on Formula 1 games, not just this one and previous ones as well, is usually been my tyre temp management, but also my tyre wear management as well, because my driving style I feel is quite smooth. As Sparks has gone off the track, I feel that the smoothness is my biggest strength and weakness. I think in qualifying you need to be aggressive, you need to change direction very quickly if you want to get the maximum lap time. But in the race, if you can be smooth, and sometimes that slower motion really helps your tyre wear by just nursing them, where you're just not overusing them at all. And that's what I was really focusing on. But you can see after a few laps, we've really started to get onto the back of VSR Smasher, and just confirming that this setup with the low downforce and just with my driving style, it felt like it was working. I just started to have this feeling, and I know this is a kind of a strange thing to say, but when I've had very good races, I just have this feeling of confidence where I just know I'm going to do it. I just know that I'm going to have a good race. There is no option other than to have a very good race. And it's a feeling where I feel like I know I'm the quickest car on track at this point on these tyres. I felt like my setup was better. I felt like my tyre wear was better. My tyre temp management was better. My ERS management was way better. And you can see now we are putting that to the test, because since I know I can save the ERS, I'm not afraid to use it right now. So the only way to overtake is to really push him into mistakes. So going into here, you can see it has definitely worked, because he's gone very deep. So we try and get a very good exit off here. He makes another mistake once again. So again, the pressure is really working and going side by side. And with this setup, I knew that I was the fastest car in a straight line, and it was going to be, the move was going to get done pretty simply there. So that is one move done, and now we are behind my rival LCR Leopard, and this is exactly where I wanted to be. So the race management has been perfect so far, and you can see despite using that ERS, we are able to save some once again here, and you'll be able to see for the rest of this lap, or for parts of this lap, you can see the tyre wear is not looking fantastic at the moment, but I knew if I could get it under 40% by lap 13 that we had a good chance to make it to the end of this race. But you can see through here already that we're closing onto the back of him. I felt like we were just the faster car. I felt like I was the faster car for sure right now. And again, I just had this confidence where, unlike if I used a high downforce, I knew that whenever I deploy my ERS, it's a massive risk, because on the Monday race, I wasn't able to recover that whatsoever. And if you deploy all your ERS and you don't make the overtake work, then you're pretty much a sitting duck. There's nothing you can do for the rest of the race. Whereas with this, I knew that I could attack, and even if it didn't come off the first time, I would have an opportunity to do it the second time. Or when I attack people, they're going to be using their ERS, which then will leave them defenseless, really. So I just had this confidence and just belief in myself that I was just driving better, and I had the tools and the car underneath me that would allow me. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing again as I did to Smasher, but this time be even more aggressive. So really closing in on LCR Leopard. Let's see if he makes a mistake like VSR Smasher, but you can see he doesn't make a mistake. He's a little bit tougher to crack with his experience under the belt, but we're going to use the DRS again because he doesn't have the DRS on the cars ahead. So I'm going to use it, and look at the straight line speed that we've got. We've got such good straight line speed. We're going to go round the outside of my rival, going to Telma. Are we going to make the move stick? Yes, we do. That is a net P1 in this race, and that is absolutely huge for this championship. And you can see we are low on the ERS now, but once again, I knew that that was going to recover. I knew that it was going to recover, and I wanted to try and get ahead of him before he got the DRS on my teammate as well, because I felt this would be a very good tactic to try and break the DRS of LCR Leopards as he's coming back at me. But you can see even by using the minimal ERS, we have just a much better straight line speed than him. So the plan is now to try and get into the back of my teammate, get past him, and then use him as a barricade between myself and Leopard. And just one thing to mention, that me and Danny31, super nice guy, and we practice all together. We're running the same setup as well, so I know he's going to be quite quick in a straight line. We're not in communication here, so we don't plan anything, and he's free to do whatever race he wants to do as well. So I really needed to ensure that I overtook him going down the pit straight, because then I would have the first sector to try and break away, because I felt like if I could break out the DRS and Leopard uses all of his ERS, then there is nothing he can do to fight against it. And I just felt like I would pull away as well. I felt like my speed was definitely just better at this moment in time. So for the rest of this lap, it's just trying to get close, but not too close to the point where he holds me up. You can see, I think Leopard does sense that I'm going to be trying to use my teammate as a barrier between both of us. So right here, I'm not really using any of the overtake button. Managed to save it again quite nicely, because in comparison, when I was using the wings I did on Monday, I was only able to save 1 or 2% per lap, whereas now I can save about 5 to 7%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is actually quite a lot. Like in 3 laps, it's 15%. The other times it's like 5% or 4%. So it's a big difference. So going into here now, just ensuring I'm going to be as close as possible as we go on the exit of the chicane. I actually go a bit deep here, so not a perfect chicane by any means. I'm going to use a little bit of the DRS, and Danny's doing a good thing. He's using a little bit of it as well, and I just want to overtake him at the very last point of this straight, making sure that Leopard cannot go through. And I think we did that almost to perfection there. That was so nicely coordinated at this point of the race, as Martin and Ron here are still out, or they've actually pitted for the medium tyres. They didn't pit under the safety car, but I think it's going to be a very tough task for those guys to actually catch up. And you can see here now, we are just trying to put that gap between myself and Leopard as much as possible. And my teammate is, he's still driving his own race, but Leopard, I think, really needs to get past him quickly. So as we go into his hairpin, you can see the arrow, the double arrow out nowhere. And I think you could hear the crunch of the car behind, because Leopard went for a bit of a dive bomb on my teammate, but something he needed to do. So now I know that he's probably going to be using the ERS, so I'm going to start deploying mine and just try and keep him out of that second window. We're about to see on the Delta as well. So you can see the gap is about 9/10, and you will see that gap just go up and up, and you can see that it is just going up and up. That's just the difference in the straight line speed we have in the setup. And over the course of the next coming laps, the gap was still fairly the same, using a little bit of the overtake once again. And you can see once again that gap is just continuing to go up because he has just expended all of his ERS and he has nothing to use at this point, combined with the setup that I have on board right now. And I think the way I was just driving really, really well. I wasn't trying to drive 100% of the wheels off it. As you can see, the tyres are about 40% because I was a bit mindful that we have to make these tyres going towards the end of this race as well. So I wasn't trying to drive the wheels off it. I was just trying to be quick in the right places, and that means coming off Spoon and this final chicane, because these are the main points where he could get back in my DRS and mount a big challenge for me. But you can see, but the delta again, it is going up so quickly, like almost 2 tenths on that straight. So it means in the midfield section, sector 1 and sector 2, he's definitely going to catch me, and technically he should have a little bit better tyre wear than I have since he has the higher downforce. But it's on these straights, if we can just keep that gap going up to Spoon, then we have such a good chance of winning this race. And I knew at this point that he was probably going to be very low on the ERS, because I knew for certain that he was running higher downforce, and I know it's next to impossible to do that. So I'm just trying my best to really force him to use his ERS as much as possible, so not allowing him to get back in the DRS zone. That's what I was really trying to do. And then with the few laps to go, then I was really looking to just burst out of that DRS zone and then just try and leave him for dead if I had any tyres up. You can see going through this first sector, he was a lot faster through here, and that's purely because of the downforce. You can see he's caught me by 2 or 3 tenths going through it. As I set a green first sector, so it's not like we're doing badly, but we just don't have the downforce on board to be going that quick through the first sector. So I'm trying my best here. Coming out of here, I always got a very good exit. I really struggled with that corner in practice, but in the race I was just driving it. This is probably one of the best I've driven other than Vietnam. This is probably one of the best I've driven all season. This was a really good, as we make a little bit of a mistake here. Get on in the exit of here now. The gap is about 8 to 9 tenths.
When using my ERS.
And I said to myself, there is no point really using it, because although I probably could have got out of the second window, all that ERS I've tried to save for the last part of the race, I thought to myself that would just be a complete waste. So I'm just trying to not use my ERS as much as possible, because I just wanted to really save it for when it actually matters. So we're coming on board that end of lap 21. Going through here again, you can see he's well within the DRS zone now. So once he's got within that 7 tenths, he's able to stay much closer. You can see the tyre wear, the indicator has already come on, and we still have over 5 laps of this race to go. So again, I feel this is where my strengths come into play, despite running the lower downforce, as we make a little bit of a mistake here. So as we're coming off this final corner, you can see Leopard, this is the closest he's been, and I was screaming to myself inside my head, do not use your ERS at all costs. Do not use it at all costs. And going down the straight, he thinks about going around the outside. And that was such a good decision that I decided not to use my ERS, because I believed I had the straight line speed and the distance that it was to keep him behind. And I'm so glad I listened to myself, because if I used that ERS, that could have put me in a very bad position. So I was extremely disciplined on that occasion, and I really do remember I was just saying to myself, just do not use any ERS at all costs, even if he gets past, because I knew he'd be running on fumes at this point. He'd be very low, and you can see our ERS with about 2 laps to go is 40%, which is a huge amount, an absolutely huge amount. So even if he got past now, I was very confident that with our straight line speed, we would be able to get him quite comfortably, because I was very certain that he was under 15 or 10% at this stage of the race here. And you can see again, he isn't close enough. The straight line speed we have, we don't have to use the ERS once again. So at this stage, I was starting to feel very good. Despite my tyre wear having the red indicator on, I knew that the hards really don't get a puncture until 80 to 90% really kind of a gamble through there, and we would probably be just over the 80% mark. So I wasn't really thinking about that at this stage. I was just thinking about just trying not to, obviously still not take too much out of my tyres, but I was just constantly thinking about getting a good traction zone, like coming off this corner, absolutely crucial, short shifting into that third gear, and you can see we do get such good traction coming off here again, and still not using the ERS, but coming through into Spoon this time for the penultimate time. Coming on the exit of here, we have a big drift moment, and that could have been so much worse than it was. So now I use a little bit of the ERS and then decide to turn it off quite quickly, because then I recognise he just doesn't have the speed or the ERS to try and challenge me into here. So this is probably the most important final chicane I have to do. If I get a good exit of here, it's looking very good for the rest of this race, and we get a very good exit. I'm using the ERS now just in case, but then I turn it off again pretty quickly because I knew again that he is just not close enough. So now we have one more lap of this race to go, and if we win this race, it puts me from 44 points to 51 points with 5 or 4 races to go following from this. So that would put me in a very strong position. But most of all, I haven't won a race in this league since the 3rd race of this season. I've had many ups and downs, many high points, but definitely many low points as well. So I was just so hungry for this. I really wanted this. Now this is probably one of the most important zones. If I get a good exit off here, it's going to be very hard. So that 3rd gear again, taking it quite easy, but getting a good exit once again, not using, or we are going to be using a little bit of the overtake button. He is quite close, so he is within 0.3 of a second now. So going into Spoon, make sure I do not repeat that mistake. So this time I don't go on the curb on the outside. Now I'm going to deploy all of the ERS, and if you just look at the delta, confirming what we thought, he just does not have the ERS of speed. I even turn it off because I knew that he just was not going to be close enough. So going into the final chicane, the only point where I can lose this race now, going through into here, and cue headphone users as we now cross the line. Yes! And yeah, that was probably one of my most well-managed races that I have ever done in terms of discipline, the preparation of the setup, the ERS management, and the tyre wear management. I couldn't have done anything more than I did that race, and I think you can see by that reaction that how much it means to me. Now, a lot of people say it's just a game and everything as well, but you know, when you've been playing for this long, and I just love competing against people, you know, it's a substitute to real life to me. This really is, and I needed that result after some up and down results recently, which league racing can be very demanding mentally at times. This is something I needed for my confidence and to have my passion back, and I felt like I got my passion back after it was missing for a few races. So I want to thank you so much. This journey has been absolutely incredible. I really hope you've enjoyed that race, and I will be catching you very soon. Peace.